Good evening, folks, and a very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. Well, do you want it? Do you really, really want it? That's the question that is being asked of the Geelong football community. My name's Tonchi Prusak, and I'm your host and producer of the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. Does the community really want a podcast? You would have seen and heard the plea, I guess, earlier today on the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page, the Instagram page, on LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. Look, we're on to episode 19. In total, 195 episodes. Next week will be the 20th episode. We've got funding for 20 episodes. We need, for another 5 episodes if we want to see out the season. And it really comes back down to, does the football community want a podcast? Look, there's some big issues happening around town at the moment. We're going to cover some of those. We'll talk about tonight's show. We won't go on more about whether or not there will be a show after next week. But last weekend, we saw many games rained out, washed out. State of pitches has been pretty bad. We're in the middle of winter. We've still got all of August to come and still got the rest of July, traditionally the coldest months. So what awaits us? Well, tonight we're going to be speaking to Ben Cameron. He's the sports reporter for the Geelong Advertiser. His article was a 2-page article today that went over to, it was featured in today's advertiser, the Great Washout. There you go. There you can see it on the screen now. And it was also on the front page. There was an editorial, believe it or not, pro-football community. I mean, when I talk football, in the Geelong Advertiser sense, we're talking soccer. Let's get that straight, right? Because everyone thinks football AFL in this city. That's why we call it the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Over the years, people have said, why don't you change the name? Well, because every time you talk about football in this city, all you talk about, or people think you're talking about, AFL. Not so. Well, with over 8,500 registered players and counting, no doubt with this World Cup that we're in the midst of, there's just not enough pitches out there. And not only that, the pitches that are out there are just substandard. In fact, more than 50% of the pitches in the region, in the Geelong region, are not good enough, are not of a high standard. So we'll be talking to Ben Cameron a little bit later on about that very issue. Now, I'm on the wrong side of 50, like so many other ex-footballers and so many other people. And the thought of playing Masters Summer League with some 35-year-olds and 36-year-olds probably doesn't appeal to me like it doesn't appeal to a lot of people. But hope is just around the corner with plans afoot to splinter off and create an over 45s division of the Masters Summer League. To tell us all about that, we'll be joined by Simon Blanche from the Masters Summer League a little bit later on, and what a great initiative that is, and to find out more information about whether that's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and who's going to make it happen. Stick around, folks, for that. Despite some quite a few games being rained out over the weekend, we've still got a lot of news to get through. So strap yourselves for the rest of episode 195. Could it be our penultimate show for the year? News desk coming up next. Yes, time for the news desk, and let's get straight into the Victorian Premier League 1 competition. The Warriors turned up at Eltham North Reserve to take on Eltham Redbacks and unfortunately came away with a 3-1 loss. Javaro Nepomuceno scoring the Warriors' only goal. That was in the 55th minute. This weekend, the Warriors come up against the Melbourne Victory at home. That game kicking off at 5 p.m. at Alco Park. It promises to be a huge game, that one. The Warriors, I'm told, are having a sponsors day on the earlier that day. There was a big working bee happening last weekend, so all is in readiness to attract a big crowd. So, folks, if you are Melbourne Victory supporters, come along to Alco Park on Saturday night, and you might even get a chance to buy a new book called the Final Whistle: A Footballer's Legacy. There'll be a stall there, possibly, and you might even get a signed copy. You heard it here first on the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page. So it's a case of 4th versus 8th. The Warriors, they've got a game in hand against Melbourne Serbia. Taking that out, though, the Warriors could overtake the Victory if they were to win that outstanding game, plus also points against Melbourne Victory. Take the points off Melbourne Victory, they will be able to jump into as high as 4th position. Geelong Galaxy came up against top side Bundoora United at home on the weekend. Unfortunately, a 1-0 loss was the end result. Not a bad effort, though, by the girls from Galaxy. They did exceptionally well to keep the league leaders there to just 1 goal. This weekend, the Galaxy are away to 3rd-placed Southern United at the Innes Hunter Recreation Reserve. So Saturday night, kick-off at 6 p.m. And so close is everything in the top half of the VPLW ladder that a win on Saturday night against Southern United, depending on the goals, obviously, could see Galaxy jump over Southern United. So a 2-goal winning margin will be enough to do that. Okay, on to men's state league action. The game between Geelong and Layla was abandoned, unfortunately, due to the state of the pitch. A little bit of a rainstorm swept through Geelong on Saturday evening, and unfortunately Stead Park's surface copped a drenching basically, and that game was abandoned. In State League 2, unfortunately, it was not a good afternoon for the Geelong teams. Not one of the three Geelong teams were able to score a goal. Whittlesea Rangers defeated Surf Coast 2-0. Top team FC Strathmore destroyed Corio 5-0. And Geelong Rangers, playing at home, lost to Unihill Legals 1-0. The game between Keon Park and Bell Park was also abandoned due to the waterlogged pitch. Over the page, Lara United lost to Deakin Ducks 4-0 after an absolute blitz in the second half by the Ducks. That was a big derby in State League 5. It was also part of the Kick for Lock Day, so a big crowd was on hand. I was able to pop in for about 10-15 minutes in the second half. I did see Finn Duncan's goal. I saw one of Sam Wyeth's goals. In fact, I think I saw two of them. But he scored a late one as well. I think it was a 15-minute blitz, and Wyeth scored 3 goals. Duncan scored 1, and the Deakin Ducks ran out 4-0 winners over Lara United. In State League 6 action, Maidstone United, top team, defeated Ocean Grove 2-0, and the Barwon Spring Hills game was also deemed, or was abandoned. The pitch was deemed unplayable. Okay, let's looking ahead to this weekend, round 16. So we're only, 7 weeks away before the end of the season. Geelong travels to 6th placed Altona East. That game at Paisley Park kicking off at 3 p.m. in State League 1. In State League 2, Corio at home to 5th place Whittlesea Rangers, 3 p.m. at Hume Reserve. And then the Geelong Derby, Surf Coast versus Geelong Rangers. It's amazing. Well, it's hard to believe that Surf Coast have dropped down to 8th position at one stage. They were in the top 2 and fighting for a spot in the top 2. But Rangers currently in second last position. Dare I say, it's not only a game of bragging rights, but it's also a 6-pointer. More so for Geelong Rangers, I guess they need to start getting points if they want to escape the relegation zone. In State League 4 action, Bell Park hosts second last place Sebastopol Vikings at the Bell Park Sports Club Saturday night at 6 p.m. No doubt there will be a big crowd on hand there. Over the page in State League 5 action, Lara United is at home to Doreen United. At home, that should be Lara Recreation Reserve, not Edwards Reserve, because Edwards Reserve is the venue for the Melbourne City Deakin Ducks game. The Ducks taking on the 9th placed Melbourne City. In State League 6 action, Ocean Grove 4th taking on Alphington 9th. That's at Shell Road Reserve. And Barwon coming up against second last place Melbourne University at Princess Park at 3 p.m. In Women's State League action, there was no action because North Geelong Warriors game against Faulkner at CB Smith Reserve was washed out. And they will be in action against top team Mill Park this Saturday at 2:45 p.m. prior to the senior men's game, which kicks off at 5 p.m. So North Geelong currently in 7th position, Mill Park at the moment on top. Let's turn our attention to the local league, Geelong Region Men's Division 1 competition. Bell Park defeated Barwon 2-1. Deakin Ducks and the Geelong Rangers drew 4-4, and Armstrong United thrashed FC Leopold 5-0, and Surf Coast defeated Golden Plains 1-0. In round 7 action this weekend, all the games will be on Friday night, so they'll have the rest of the weekend off. Barwon hosting Surf Coast, that game kicking off at 7 p.m. at Grovedale Reserve. Geelong Rangers up against Armstrong United, 5th versus 6th, also at 7 p.m. up at Myers Reserve. FC Leopold against Bell Park, so it's the bottom versus the top, and that game at Estuary Reserve kicking off at 7:30 p.m. And last but certainly not least, Golden Plains, who are in second spot, taking on second last placed Deakin Ducks at 8:30. On to the women, and there were 3 games played. Rangers defeated Armstrong United 5-1. Barwon defeated Bell Park 1-0. Surf Coast defeated Deakin Ducks 3-1 at Deakin University, and a game between Ocean Grove and Lara United was abandoned after an injury to an Ocean Grove player. I believe it was a head injury or a neck injury. So hopefully that Ocean Grove lass is okay and she's fine. We certainly don't want to be seeing any injuries happening at any level in our sport. Round 7 sees all the games being played this Saturday. Armstrong United at home to Ocean Grove in the Battle of the Cellar Dwellers, 7th versus 8th. Lara United taking on Barwon, 4th versus 1st. Bell Park at home to Deakin Ducks in a 5th versus 2nd encounter. And 3rd place Surf Coast hosts 6th placed Geelong Rangers. As we mentioned earlier, the Geelong Advertiser, today's edition of the Geelong Advertiser, front page, muddy disgrace. Well, grounds for concern is the name of the new campaign that the Geelong Advertiser is launching in response to a Football Victoria statistic that more than 50% of local grounds are deemed to have insufficient or poor quality drainage. With pitches far from perfect, kids are missing out on training, and games are being cancelled. Trainings are being cancelled. And in this article by Ben Cameron, it actually quotes the Armstrong United vice president saying, recently, when training had to be cancelled, they had 60 kids on one basketball court. Did you hear that? 60 kids on one basketball court trying to, I don't know, you wouldn't call it training, would you? You'd probably call it just daycare centre. It's pretty ridiculous, actually. But anyway, we'll be talking to Ben Cameron a little bit later on in the show with regards to that. Time for a little bit of a shameless plug. How else am I going to get the funds to start running this program? I've just recently become an author, would you believe? My book is called The Final Whistle, A Footballer's Legacy. And Marco was a gifted young footballer from Melbourne's western suburbs who harboured an extraordinary dream to become a professional footballer in the top leagues of Europe. You can buy these books at Amazon, at books.buy, or you can contact me directly, and I will send you a signed copy if you are in the Geelong region area. I might even drop it off as well, or we might meet for a coffee. You can private message me, or you can get in touch with us, communitysportsmedia@gmail.com. That's communitysportsmedia@gmail.com, and we can take it from there. Rightio, I think that has brought us to the end of our news desk. We're going to take a short break. Before we go further, can I just say thank you sincerely to tonight's business advertising sponsors, Curva Coaching, who has been with us all season, and Birregurra General Store as well. Adrian Layer from Curva Coaching, a loyal supporter of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Thank you, Ado. And Steve DeCunto and his son Angus out of Birregurra General Store. They've also been tremendous supporters of this show in years gone by. To all the business advertising sponsors this year, without you guys, this show would not have come out in 18 episodes or 19 episodes. And if we don't get any more sponsors, if we don't get any more advertisers, next week will be the final show. Enough from me. Here's a short commercial break. When we return, our first guest for tonight, he's a member of the organising committee of the Masters Summer League, Simon Blanche.
Fantastic service, food and coffee, well-stocked produce and groceries at very reasonable prices. 5 stars for the coffee served, beautifully made latte, everything you need in this wonderful little shop. Staff are always friendly and helpful, an absolute treasure to the community. These are just some of the glowing comments of praise by both regular and first-time customers of the iconic Birregurra General Store. The DeCunto family, well known in Geelong football circles, has run the iconic Country General Store since 2020, and apart from providing top quality service, they, along with their extremely pleasant and friendly staff, make sure that everything you could possibly need is well stocked and always available. Located at 59 to 61 Main Street in Birregurra and open all 7 days a week, the Birregurra General Store is open from 6 a.m. each weekday and 7 a.m. on weekends. If in Birregurra, pop in and say hello to Steve and Angus.
And welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast. And as we approach the middle of winter, all we can think of, geez, wouldn't it be nice if it was a little bit warmer? Summer can't come soon enough. Well, the folks from the Masters Summer League, speaking of summer, they're already planning ahead for next summer, and they're already got one eye on the eighth edition of the Masters Summer League. But the season just gone by was possibly the last one in its current format, because already next year there's plans to maybe change the format. That's how big the competition has become, the league has become. And to tell us all about that is one of the members of the organising committee, and someone who's very well known to the Geelong football community, and someone who's very welcome joining us here on the podcast. And I speak of Simon Blanche. Blanchy, good evening. How are
How you
you?
doing, Tonchi? Good to see you.
Mate, I'm very, very well. But we just in the intro there, we talked about next year and how it may change the format. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the season that's finished, episode 7 of the Masters Summer League. How was it? How did it all go?
Well, we literally are kicking goals on and off the pitch. It's the first year we've used an app. So one of our committee members, Darren, created an absolutely fantastic app that we've used this year to sort of get people signed on, but also give them score results and keep things fresh. But at the same time, it's been separate from Go Football. So we've had to pay for the last couple of years our own insurance for the players and for public liability in and around the games.
Was that expensive?
It's our biggest expense by far.
Yep.
So there's no qualms about it that we've got to put a fair bit of money aside each year to make sure that we've got that covered. But we want the players to have the best experience that they possibly can on and off the field, and we encourage people to bring their families along to watch. So it's something that's very important. Just we make sure that we have that all covered off. But as I said, we're kicking goals on and off the pitch. We have, again, broken records. We've got 16 teams last season. We had to refuse a couple of teams access just for the fact that we're trying to organise as a committee and try and make it as even and as accepting for everyone.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's only so many pitches and so many sort of grounds that we can utilise for that, which is difficult. But thanks to some of the hosting clubs having 3 pitches, we made it work.
Yeah.
So I think that the Friday nights, but also the Saturdays, were hosted at Corio and Rangers, and it worked really well. So there's a mixed bag of people that really like the Fridays, but some people really like just the normal sort of Saturday football session. So
and there's a lot. Look, at that time of year, I suppose February, March. It's the hottest time of the year. Does the weather dictate days that you're going to play? Like, for example, are you forced to last minute do a scheduling change because there's 40 degrees expected on Saturday, so you move it to the Friday night? Or do you kind of know reasonably well in advance?
We get requests from teams well early that they can plan, or they can see that it's looking to be this weather. We have a reduced time frame game anyway. It's never going to be 90 minutes for over 35s. So we can introduce drink breaks, but at the same time, we can actually sort of move the schedule forward or backwards to try and get away from the heat.
So you had the hydration breaks before the FIFA World Cup had them.
Yeah, well, I think we don't have as many adverts playing, but yes, we do utilise a hydration break. But it's sensible for the older guys to have that drink break, especially in summer. But it's something that the welfare and the mental health of our players is key to us in the Masters Summer League.
Now, obviously, speaking about the well-being and the mental health of the players, as well as the obviously physical health, do you have to go to any, I won't say extreme lengths, but do you have to go as far as the planning? So do you have to have first aid personnel there? Do you have to have ambulance on standby? Taking into account, with the situation these days with ambulances and all of that kind of stuff, do you have to have a designated first aid person? Look, just for those people that aren't aware, what precautions do you take just to ensure that things, are very, very safe for the participants?
We like to be on the front foot of the Masters, and we encourage teams to actually sort of put forward a player or 2 players to be first aiders, and we'll actually pay for them to be on a first aid course.
Mhm.
So we've run a couple of sessions for first aiders and for the use of a defib, which we supply to the grounds if they don't have one. But every person that's involved on a level on game days is a first aider. We have 2
Excellent.
game day managers.
Yep.
Both of them have sat through a first aid course, but at the same time, we have 2 qualified or training to be qualified physios.
Hmm.
So the physios do strapping, do first aid and that sort of stuff, and that sort of worked in the past. Last year, for example, we had a guy that landed awkwardly on his neck. It was a clash with his own player, freak accident, completely by accident, but his head hit the guy's sort of hip. He was going one way, the other guy was going the other way, and we literally laid him on the ground, and the first aider stayed with him for the entire time till the ambulance came. Unfortunately, the ambulance was a couple of hours later and it had gone dark by that time. But first and foremost, we have to look after the well-being of our players, but also that comes with their mental health, which we're very keen on.
Yeah. We've had you guys on, and that's been one of the big focuses, hasn't it, in the past? And kudos to you guys. I think. Well, from what I could gather, speaking to some of the guys in years gone by, it was missing. There was a vacuum there. You guys have stepped in independently of Football Victoria and other organising bodies and organised something that I think has just taken the town by storm. Have there been any copycats or attempts to have copycats around Victoria that you're aware of that have maybe even approached you for a bit of advice?
We've had areas, sort of country Victoria, that have said, can we use your format? Can we utilise what you've already set up? Can we use your badges? Can we use your app?
How good is
And
that?
actually sort of repeat it out.
Yep.
And we're quite happy to do that. We're quite happy to let those
Yep.
people organise
Yep.
and be their own committee or subcommittee, if you like, in those regional areas. And I know that Castlemaine and Bendigo are keen to try and get it over the line.
Yep.
And we're not really worried about copycats or anything like that. We
No,
encourage
I use that in a
people,
kind of
yeah,
in a
we
sense,
encourage people to try and sort of
sense.
get out and about. And mental health of over 35s is so important across all of Australia.
Yep.
If we could sort of push that to be utilised almost free of charge, to the point where if you've got the personnel that are volunteering to run it, you'll get the actual money to pay for the intake of players. So it's something that we're super keen. And we've one of our main sponsors at the moment, Calming Minds Clinic, or Calm Minds Clinic. That's a business here in Geelong. And they're quite happy to support in any which way they can. There's a number of sports, sort of mental health, sort of first aid courses, if you like, that I was trying to sort of get the committee to go on. But obviously committee members do a lot, and a hell of a lot. And I've said this to a number of people. No football club in this region would be anything without their volunteers. So the volunteers that we have are absolutely fantastic, and hat off to all of them. So.
With Simon Blanche from the Masters Summer League, and we were talking about last season, and it's season now, 7th season, by the way. Incredible. Let's turn our attention now to the future, because you guys have just recently put out basically a call to arms for a survey about the possibility of having a Masters Summer League over 45s division. And now that's a social media post from back in late May. And even by then you had, close to 100 people respond. So that was back then, where you're looking at effectively a survey, looking at what the likelihood or what the possibility is of having an over 45s division. How'd you go? How'd you go with that?
So we did a trial run a couple of years ago that people were involved with. We did another trial run this season with players just coming along for a one-off kick. At the same time, we've had a level of interest where a lot of people and a lot of teams are asking me, "Oh, when are you doing over 45s? When are you doing over 45s?" So we've actually got now a subcommittee, and that subcommittee is actually really focusing on how we actually get that over the line. Do we have a separate venue? Do we mix it into the same sort of format that what we've got at the moment? Do we have it at the same location at the same times? Do we have it as a standalone? Is it seven-a-side? Is it going to be smaller, reduced pitches with reduced time? We've got people that are in the 60s that still want to kick,
Mm,
and we want to be inclusive. We want to let everyone have a crack at having a kick.
mm.
So if we can get an over 45 started that grows from being seven-a-side to 11-a-side to a team format, I'm all
Yep.
for it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to burn out committee members, so we've actually put an expression of interest in that at the same time saying, are you interested in starting a team, forming a team, becoming a committee member,
Yeah.
or actually helping being an
How good
organizer on the
is
day?
how good is that? That's fantastic. Sorry.
Oh, we've got great response to it. It's absolutely fantastic. We're literally, as a committee, talking at the moment of what we then do with the information that we've got and the great response that we've received. So it's something that I want people to play till their body tells them that they can't, and I don't
Yeah.
care. I was very fortunate to have Everett Nelson in when it was the FFV winter competition
Hmm.
playing. I think he was 68 at the time. He might have even been a lot older than that, but he was still keen to have a run around, still be part of it. And he got a winner's medal for the first year that Drysdale won that winter competition.
Mm.
So it's something that if we can have people that wouldn't want to necessarily play in the over 35s, because it's just like anyone now over 35 not wanting to chase a 21-year-old around,
Mm.
having a 50 plus guy not wanting to chase a 35-year-old round is understandable. So I think if we can get more people to come back and play in a relaxed environment, but at the same time have that level of competition that people want, but not to the point where there's, I mean, that's why we don't have the sliding tackles, but they still want that camaraderie, but at the same time, that competitive nature comes out of
Yep.
people without you even trying.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. What a fascinating concept. And look, I dare say, being on the wrong side of 50 myself, I think of myself as being young. But when I look around and unfortunately these days more and more you sort of tend to meet people at funerals that you haven't seen them for a while, and you look and you see, gee, we are aging indeed. But the thought of playing. Even at a reduced pace, so to speak, or modified rules, or size of the pitch against people more your age or people more your generation certainly appeals to I think a lot of people, and I think it's the thought, isn't it? The thought of after a winter or whatever, you're going to kind of put on the boots and run, and you haven't done so for 10 years. The thought of it is quite harrowing. But when you've got something like this, an over 45s competition, it seems, you know what? It's actually doable. It's actually realistic. It's actually possible.
sometimes it's hard for us as men and as players to admit that we're not in our sort of prime anymore.
Mm.
We still think we can do it, but the body's telling us no. So it is hard, but at the same time, I remember when I just turned 35 thinking I've got an advantage here.
Yeah.
Now I'm a year off turning 50, so my advantage is well gone. But my
Yeah.
mind still thinks I can have a run. But when I was playing the winter competition out on in whatever division in the local leagues,
Yep.
chasing a 21-year-old soon made me realise that I'm going to be carrying an injury for the rest of that season because my brain's wanting to do it, but I know my body can't take it. So over 45s might open up 60 plus years for people. It might be someone that I haven't played for a while because I kept on pulling a hamstring. No one's going
Mm.
to have a go at you for not sprinting in an over 45s competition as long as you're making an effort. So it's something that Robin, who's pretty much taken charge of it within the committee, he's running with it. He's going to give it a red hot crack, and he gets all my support.
Yeah. Now, if anyone is tuning into this interview and they're really keen to get on board and maybe help organise either a team or be part of the organising committee, how can they do so, Simon? What's the best way to contact you guys?
So there's a Facebook. It's easy to find on Facebook. If people don't have Facebook, there's a number of different scans and stuff like that that we put out that you can sort of log into. At the same time, we have a website that you can go and find, and then there's contact numbers from there.
Mm-hmm. What's the
But
website?
I think it's Masters Summer League .gmail or something. Well, I'll have to double check. It's not something I use very often, but it's one of those where you just have a quick search of it, you'll find it. It's
There
not
it
that
is,
difficult.
folks. It's down at the bottom there. It's in the ticker as we speak now. So just get in touch there. We'll and I'm sure you'll either touch base with either Simon or Robin or any of the other guys from the Masters Summer League. Yeah, the big question: women's summer Masters, or what would you call that? A women's Masters League as well.
We call, or they called themselves the Grandmasters.
The grandmasters, grandmothers, like the grandmothers.
Yeah.
Nice play.
So
What's happening there as well?
That was their choice on words, and we had a trial game again last year that was well supported. Everyone that is playing in that sort of age group, because we opened it up to over 30s, not 35s for the women, are still playing regularly. So no one really had that amount of time that came forward and said, I'm willing to help organise, I'm willing to help do. And it could have been a 4-team league to start with. It could have been a 2-team league that you play the same sort of girls each week and make it a really social event. It could be a great way for over 30 women to actually sort of make new friends in the region, because you might not necessarily have spoken to that person because you played against them. Now you get to play with them. So we're super keen to have any women or any guys that want to sort of push their wife into having a game or a kick to help organise that. And
once the guys stop playing, it's usually the husbands, the wives, the wives, the girlfriends, sisters, whatever, that push them. So now it's the roles are reversed. So ladies, we want to hear from you as well. Everyone talks about, come on, women's soccer and this and that. Here's your opportunity to get a Grandmasters competition happening as well. I like the play on words. And they can anyone, whether it's someone over the for the over 45s men or whether it's the Grandmasters division, they can get in touch with you guys via the website, via Facebook, your Facebook page, Masters Summer League. Love the graphics. Some of the graphics on there are absolutely fantastic, and the clips. So seems like it's growing at an extraordinary rate, and I'm not surprised, mate. You guys seem to be doing a great job, and you must have a really, really good team behind the scenes.
Oh, the team that we have is fantastic, and the sponsors that back us again are fantastic. So we couldn't do it without the sponsors. We couldn't do it without the volunteers. But we push ourselves and we push each other. And on that note, Tonchi, I'm going to put a bit of a challenge out to yourself that this coming season, you need to don the over 45s format, or you need to.
Conveniently, something's just broken up, and I'm not too sure what you're trying to say,
You could have a kick. So,
sorry, no, you broke up. What was that you were saying?
So literally, I was putting the gauntlet down for yourself to either put a kit on to actually have a kick in the over 45s, or be able to put like a one-off team together. I mean, you must know enough people in the region to be able to actually sort of put together an over 45s football team quite easily.
Maybe we might have to have a Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast team, an all-stars team. Okay,
or
gives me
you
enough.
Literally have your actual details on the shirt.
There you go. Well, we can't even bloody get sponsors for this podcast, let alone we're going to get sponsors for a team. But
I think if you put a team together, we'll sponsor an episode. We'll work both in hand in hand.
There you go. All right, there we go. The challenge has been issued. Okay, on that note, mate, I wish you well. And look, the good news, I suppose, is the fact that we've got still another 7 months or whatever before the next edition. So there's plenty of time. And on that note, I think I'm going to conclude this interview and hit the gym tonight because there's no time to be wasted.
All right, Tony, I look forward
Good on
to
you, Blanchy.
All right.
Simon Blanche offering a challenge. Well, there you go, folks. If anyone wants to join the Geelong Region Soccer Show All-Stars over 45s team, drop us a note either in the comments section, private message us, and while you're at it, find a sponsor or two, because if we don't find a sponsor, next week will be our final episode for the year. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to continue with tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast.
The world is yours. So work hard, and you can have whatever it is you want.
I'm here at a very windy Stead Park, or as the locals call it, Winslow Park, and you wouldn't tell it by now, but maybe because of the wind over the last couple of days, this has dried up the ground. But this is one of the grounds that was affected on Saturday night, washed out, the game between Geelong and Laylaw, the State League 1 match, and there's several games washed out over the course of the weekend. Geelong Soccer Club, as noted in today's Geelong Advertiser, is one of the clubs that have really complained about the state of the drainage of these facilities, of these pitches, and they're blessed with 4 fantastic fields here. But obviously what happens is then when the grounds get hot and they get washed out, as games get washed out, you then have a backlog of games. Teams aren't able to train, and obviously with the club at State 1 aiming for VPL next year, the seniors will probably be training 3 times a week, putting a lot of pressure on the juniors, the community teams, the women's teams, etc. It's a big issue at the moment, obviously, and we're as was noted on the front page of the Geelong Advertiser, and the Geelong Advertiser doesn't really cover local soccer, let's be honest, unless there's something bad. And I guess that was warranted front page exposure, something that's bad at the moment, the state of pitches around the region. And we're only in mid-July. Imagine what it's going to be like in August. Well, we caught up with the Geelong Advertiser's Ben Cameron earlier today to discuss this issue. He was the writer behind the article that appeared in today's Advertiser.
There we go, folks, and it's a very warm welcome to Ben Cameron, who joins us, the soccer scribe, or the sports scribe from the Geelong Advertiser. Ben, first of all, how are you?
Good to be with you, Tonty. We've spoken a lot on the phone, but I think we've ever really met like this before. So good to meet you, the man, the legend, the myth.
All right, enough of that. Let's get to the stuff that really matters, and it is bad. It really is. I had a chance earlier today just to sort of do a little bit of a tour around some of the grounds in the northern suburbs, and look, just speaking to a few people over the last few weeks. I guess there's a number of issues here, a number of reasons for why the statistics are so bad, and I'll throw it over to you. But you were telling me off air the statistics from Football Victoria pertaining to the local pitches here is really bad, actually.
Oh, look, there's just seems like there's many elements at play, Tonty. I have written a fair bit of off-field stuff regarding soccer over the last 3 years that I've been at the Addy. Obviously not as much as on-field stuff as your good self, but I guess the thing that I've been really trying to track is the state of pitches, the lack of facilities, One of the first stories I ever wrote was back in 2023. That was that G21 soccer report, which highlighted that I think it was 36% of local pitches were in poor condition.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, look, this is just something that we can really keep an eye on, and I guess formulate a bit of a campaign. Look, I'd be the first to agree that when it comes to the World Game, the coverage of the game has largely been your domain until this year, and you were doing a fantastic job. My interest has been more off-field.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess things came to a bit of a head. Actually, there's one other element that I should mention. Another thing that's the top of my priority list is the plans for a boutique stadium as well.
Mm.
I understand they're thinking the north of Geelong. I was talking to Mike McKinstry, the chairman of Football Geelong, just about an hour before this interview, and he mentioned that will include also about 5 other pitches as well. It's not just about a boutique type arrangement, which will address requirements to some degree. But he referenced a report from a year ago, and that's one that we referenced in our reporting today. It was called State of Play, which was put together by Football Victoria, and I believe Football Geelong had a hand in that as well. But the figure was we're about 30 pitches short of where we should be in terms of facilities, and there's been such a massive increase in participation. The latest figures from Mike was, I think it was 25% over the past 2 years, which is, I think we've hit record levels.
I mean, it's say 8,500 or thereabouts, as you noted in your report, and I know Mike's been speaking about that on this podcast show in the episodes gone by, and we had Eddie Contell, who was acting mayor at the time, deputy mayor, also speaking about the regional facility, and we know there's a demand for it, but now it's got to the stage where it's not just clubs are turning players away, and there was a good report. You mentioned Armstrong United, who when it gets to situations where weather becomes inclement and cancels training, then they have to have 50 kids squeezed onto one basketball court just so that they can have a bit of a run, which is awful. I mean, days gone by, we'd let kids just play in the mud, but now it's a safety thing. And recently, in another code in Melbourne, where there was a death of a young footballer, we're talking AFL footballer, because of a synthetic cricket pitch. And now we're talking safety. So now we're not just talking accommodating numbers. We're actually talking the state or the safe state of the grounds, isn't it?
Yeah, I should add to that. It was Armstrong United who came forward, I'd say about 2 weeks ago, sent some photos in of the state of their pitch. And mate, to be honest, I've never seen a local sports surface looking that bad. It was just mud, essentially. And then Leopold Football Club put out some photos as well. They had a cancelled game. So having an interview with Armstrong United and just gathering up other information, we just thought this is the perfect opportunity just to put this back on the agenda. It just seems a shame that you've got young kids who just can't get a game when the weather turns really wet. It's a real shame. I mean, I come from a background of footy and cricket, so occasionally I've played cricket in the wet if it's a hard wicket. I'm just not used to the fact that junior games, I mean, that's the thing that breaks my heart, really, that these kids just want to play.
Yeah.
And they can't. And I guess to some degree, some clubs and the sport itself is a victim of its own success. Like, we've had this huge increase in player numbers, but unfortunately, the facilities have not kept pace. Then Football Victoria also saying during the week, Tonsi, that more than 50% of pitches are lacking adequate drainage. They need upgrades. So it seems like it's a little bit of a perfect storm at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like that, and then we've got the World Cup at the moment. So obviously, there's, and we all know we know from history. Whenever there's been a World Cup, and added to that, we had the Women's Asian Cup in March earlier this year. There's always a flow-on effect of kids, of blokes, people wanting to play football, even those that haven't played it before. And I guess in years gone by, I know when I was a junior coach, if we, for whatever reason, were rained off and we couldn't play, we'd try and organise a futsal court. We'd try and organise indoor facilities. But even that's struggling because I know my daughter plays basketball and I'm pretty familiar with the basketball kind of scene, as are you, Ben. Simply put, there are not enough courts, indoor courts in Geelong, let alone outdoor soccer pitches. So we're in a real bind at community grassroots level, aren't we?
Mate, you've put it beautifully. To be honest, every time I speak to someone like yourself, a president, a coach, whoever, I say the top of my priority list is facilities. It's not just soccer. It's not just basketball. It's netball as well. We're obviously experiencing rapid growth. We're seeing huge surges in participation at junior level. And it's just a situation where we just don't have the adequate facilities. And it's not just grassroots as well. Netball, basketball is sort of lacking, a bit like soccer as well, lacking that sort of boutique sort of stadium type setup where you can have top range sport. So for quite a big region, we are lacking facilities, whether it's grassroots or we're talking about at the very top of the tree.
And look,
there's plenty to pick over from a journalistic point of view.
Yeah. Now we do have an issue with youth delinquency in this city, especially in the CBD. And look, any attempt that can be made to get the kids off the streets, get them involved in something physical activity that involves discipline, like team sports, I think is a no-brainer. But I guess the light at the end of the tunnel is the fact that it's a state election year, and it's the state government that usually plows money into recreational sporting facilities. The Geelong Advertiser's starting a campaign, kicking a campaign to get a little bit more awareness, to get a little bit more of the, I guess, the powers that be putting money in where it matters. What can you suggest to the football community out there listening to this podcast?
Oh, look, mate, I'd be the first to admit that the media it's not everyone's cup of tea. People don't trust the media, and I totally get that. There's some real shonks in the industry, and I'd be the first person to admit that our coverage of certain sports is nowhere near what we do in terms of, say, Aussie rules. I'd be the first to admit that. But I think it's just a question of there are some really good people here at the Addy who want to tell these kinds of stories. And for me personally, it's the off-field stuff that interests me the most. It's these legacy, it's these legacy, I'm just trying to think of the right way to phrase it, but just the kind of journalism that we can look back on and
community legacy,
creating a bit of change. I just think we've just got this big opportunity to tell some stories in terms of the facilities that we need. There's a lot going on at Cardinia Park as well. There's plans for all kinds of sporting infrastructure at Cardinia Park. As I mentioned before, we've got soccer. We've got this need for that boutique stadium. We're lacking a stadium for basketball, for netball at the top of the tree. There's plenty to write about. And to be honest, it's this off-field stuff that interests me the most because we need to be putting these needs front and center. And I guess going back to your question, like what advice I would have, it would be, I'm always up for a chat. I'm always keen to advocate, whether it's soccer or it's cricket or it's Aussie rules. It doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, cricket and footy are for me personally, as a person, are my top sports. But as a journalist, that doesn't really come into it. It's how important is this story to tell?
Yeah.
Whether it's soccer or footy or cricket or pickleball.
Yeah.
So I think we're coming up to a really interesting period of time, like you mentioned, with the state election.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I mean, I'm an optimistic sort of a person. I like to look at things optimistically, even though sometimes I have to be realistic. But when I say optimistically, the Advertiser today has come out with an editorial. Now, I don't know if it was you that wrote this, mate, or was it your bosses? But look, it's there on the screen, but it might be a bit blurry. I'm going to read it out to you, and this is how important an issue it is to not just the football community, but now it's becoming a mainstream thing. And it says, Geelong is a proud sporting city, but our obsession with Aussie rules cannot leave other local codes out in the mud. Soccer participation is booming, surging 25% to a record 8,500 regional players, yet half of our soccer pitches face crippling drainage failures. When 60 junior players are forced to cram on for a single basketball court because their home ground is a waterlogged swamp, grassroots sport is broken. Today, the Addy launches our Grounds for Concern campaign. We need urgent, fair government investment in diverse sporting facilities right across Geelong. Our kids deserve proper, safe playing fields right now and not just empty promises. Here, I say, and as Mike McKinstry and both Eddie Contel have said on this program with regards to the regional facility, it's a topic that we need to constantly bring to the surface and constantly keep relevant. And I implore the football community out there to keep this relevant and to contact you, Ben, to contact other media here in Geelong to make this an issue, and especially the politicians, the bloody politicians. We've had that many promises, and in the end, empty promises. We got to keep them accountable. And I think this campaign by the Geelong Advertiser, Grounds for Concern, it has to become front and centre in the next few months.
Yeah, well said, mate. And I should mention, this whole thing started because Armstrong United got in touch.
There you go.
That's how these things
There you go.
happen. And it's a great thing. Look, it's been a tough time for the industry. People have lost trust in local media or mainstream media, but I think this is a good example of how local newspapers can be an advocate for sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a case of particularly here in Geelong, we've become very apathetic. We've become very, very blasé about a lot of things. We've given up. It's a very kind of a negative type of mood around town. But maybe something like this will kickstart the community, kickstart the powers that be. And as you said, probably, arguably, one of the smallest clubs in the region, the youngest club by a mile, definitely. Armstrong United has acted, and as a result, we've got this campaign happening. So let that be a lesson to everyone and to all the clubs.
I think back over my younger years where I played footy and cricket and a bit of baseball and all that kind of stuff, and I managed to play every week, and unless I was injured or family went away for the weekend. But we weren't sitting on the sidelines, unable to go out there because the pitches weren't up to scratch. And I'm glad that you mentioned that basketball anecdote, mate, because having spoken to Lauren at Armstrong United, when she told that story that one night they couldn't get on their courts, on their pitches, so they had to go down to a local basketball court, and there were about 60 kids all on that one court. I just thought something has to change. That just seems pretty hard to fathom, to be honest.
Yeah. And at the same time, we talk about kids not being active, not being disciplined, being obese, and all of that kind of stuff. Yet, are we really serious about our community and ensuring that they at least get the right to be able to play sport on a regular basis? Mate, thank you so much for joining us, Ben. Really appreciate the time.
Anytime, mate. Let's keep the ball rolling.
Absolutely. Ben Cameron from the Geelong Advertiser. Having known Ben personally over the last few years, I can certainly tell you his concern for the football community and the state of affairs in the football community is genuine. Folks, we're going to take a very short break. When we return, it will be time to wrap up tonight's episode. Is it our penultimate episode of the year? Well, time will tell, but you are tuning into the Geelong Region Soccer Show. And there you have it, folks. That brings us to the end of tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Is it going to be our last episode next week? I don't know. Time will tell. I hope not. I hope next week will be episode 20, and after that we'll have another 5 episodes. But it's up to you, folks. It's up to the football community of Geelong. If the Geelong football community deems it necessary or warranted that we do have a football-themed podcast, week in, week out. Yes, on that note, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Spread the word far and wide. If there's something that you enjoyed from tonight's show, put it on your club social media channels. Share it far and wide. Last week's episode, just on our Facebook, attracted over 3,500 views. That's not including the other cut up segments and what you're not on our Facebook page, or on our other Facebook pages, or our LinkedIn pages, or our Instagram pages, or our Twitter pages, or my personal pages, or my other pages. You get the feeling. It was very, very popular. So there seems to be a market. Whether or not there is a desire, that's a different story. Good night, folks. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you for being a part of this week's Geelong Region Soccer Show podcast.